The 4-year-old is by a different mother than the alleged victim in the Montgomery County case in which Peterson is charged with felony injury to a child. In that case, Peterson admits to repeatedly striking the boy with a tree branch or a switch, but has maintained that he did not intend to harm the child and was just using judgment as a parent to discipline his son. The latest incident allegedly occurred in June of last year while the boy, who lives out of state, was visiting Peterson at his gated home in Spring, Texas. A photo allegedly texted by Peterson to the boy's mother shows a head wound to the boy covered by 2 bandages. Other photos, allegedly taken weeks later, reveal a scar over the boy's right eye. Now, the direct quote from Vikings GM Rick Spielman today on reinstating Adrian Peterson for this week's game against the Saints was, quote, "Based on the information we have right now and what we know about Adrian, we believe he deserves to play," close quote. Now, Peterson had an initial court date scheduled for Wednesday. This is from the May incident, and that was set for Wednesday in Texas, but it was delayed until October 8th. Now, these are the text messages between Peterson and the boy's mother, and this is again from the June incident, the one we are learning about tonight. Mother says, "What happened to his head?" Peterson hit his head on the car seat. Mother, "How does that happen?" "He got a whooping in the car." Peterson, "Yep." Mother, "Why?" Peterson, "I felt so bad, but he did it himself." Mother, "What did you hit him with?" Peterson never directly answered, but later replied, "Be still and take your whooping. He would have saved the scar." He eyed. ESPN legal analyst Roger Cossack joins us on SportsCenter with his insight on this latest Peterson situation. And Roger, we just read those texts where it certainly seems Peterson admits to causing the injuries on his son, intent aside. Now, the report from KHOU in Houston says that the boy's mother did contact Child Protective Services. Why do you think Peterson hasn't been charged in this June incident?
Well, there's a lot of questions that obviously have to be answered regarding this report. We correctly said these are allegations and these are alleged text messages that have gone back and forth. So that's one thing that we have to concern ourselves with. The second thing we have to concern ourselves is exactly that. Why, if that's happened, why it wasn't filed. And I want to remind you that the law in Texas, as in most places, is very careful. Parents are allowed to discipline their children. It's only when it crosses that line, when it becomes more than discipline and into child abuse, and obviously that's a line that's defined differently by many people. In the first case we're talking about, where there's welts and bruises all over the child, it seems to me that that's close to, if not, is child abuse. In this case, it's a little more ambiguous. And I can see perhaps why a prosecutor may not want to file this case, thinking that it may be a difficult case to convince a jury that this crossed the line. We just don't know exactly what happened. We know this child ended up with a scar. We know the word whooping was used. But, again, there's no law that says parents can't discipline their children. It's when they cross that line.
Roger, is it possible the grand jury in this current Peterson case, the one from May of this year, would have been aware of the June 2013 case that we're learning about tonight?
Most likely not. As we've indicated, no charges were filed, and this was probably private conversation, most likely private conversations between the parents. So there's no reason to believe that the grand jury would have known anything about this.
But when you bring Child Protective Services in, as the mother, at least the report suggests that the mother did, that doesn't go on some sort of record that this grand jury would have been made privy to?
Well, yeah, but remember, it's what you're talking about is an investigation by the Texas Child Protective Services. You're not talking about charges being filed. You're not talking about anything more than an investigation. And from what we know now, and we only know the beginnings of this, the Child Protective Services must have concluded that there wasn't enough evidence to bring a charge. Remember, in the first case that we've seen where there's been an indictment, there's plenty of evidence here. And in fact, there's Adrian Peterson admitting that he hit the child, and there's the pictures of the child with welts and bruises and scars all over his body. In this case, horrible as it sounds, we don't have that kind of evidence, and really can't go much further than that because there was no charges filed.
Yeah, and the case from May of this year actually took 2 grand juries to even reach this indictment stage that Peterson now faces.
Well, I think that's unclear, too. In the first case, I don't think there was 2 grand juries. I think there was only one. I think initially it was reported as 2 grand juries, but there's only one.
Okay, only one, but still Peterson does face those charges. He was supposed to have some sort of trial this week that's being pushed back. And, Roger, how could the case now from June of last year, the one that we're learning about this evening, affect the charges that he faces now?
Well, I don't think they will. I mean, I suspect that what you're really asking me here is, can this be used? Can this case that we've just talked about be used against him in the first case? And I don't think it can for a couple of reasons. First of all, no charges were filed. Second of all, we have to understand that what you would be talking about is what is his intent, and it's difficult to use prior acts to prove intent. Now, in a technical way and a legal way, if Adrian Peterson testified in a trial, if he has a trial in the first case, that he didn't do what he's accused of doing and would never do such a thing, then this case or these facts may be used against him. But short of that, I think the second case as it stands right now, and we're reporting, is a case that is filled with allegations, and we really don't know exactly what happened other than the fact that Child Protective Services chose not to go ahead and file charges on this.
So if you're the district attorney in Montgomery County, Texas, and this does go to trial, this case from May of this year that Peterson does face charges for, you wouldn't call the boy's mother from the June 2013 case to try to establish some sort of pattern of Peterson striking his children?
I'm not sure. I'm certainly not an expert on Texas evidentiary law, but I can tell you that generally the mother would not be allowed to testify as to what happened in this case unless Peterson first testified that he would never do such a thing and has never done such a thing. Then I think the mother, in this case, could be called as a rebuttal witness by the state.
Roger Cossack, ESPN legal analyst, sharing his insight and certainly his expertise on this latest situation facing Adrian Peterson.